Hi everyone. Uh, it's been a while since I've done a vlog. I know I did a few live streams since then, but you know, like I said, I wanted to do these videos when I'm having a hard time with things or need somebody to sort it out. I don't. Um, I life, like I said before, life is hard, and sometimes we feel we have things sorted out, or we think we have the right path, or whatever. Sometimes we lose our focus, and sometimes life throws things at us, and things are just difficult. I don't know if I will mute it or that mutes it. I was seeing if I could change the audio input, but I can't. So that's okay. Um, but I wanted to talk about uh, sort of what I've been going through recently. Um, so um, it's not easy. It's been a year since I moved away from my wife. Uh, things change, things come and gone, all kinds of craziness. I mean, there's just this year being kind of crazy, but that's more work related than um, than personal. Um, I mean that affects me because um, you know, I'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk about uh, what's been going on with me personally, just because that's that's what I'm having trouble sticking to my guns about. So, um, I had previously thought things were getting better between me and my wife, and she made decisions based upon what's best for her, and that's I don't blame her for it. I mean, I don't like it, and I don't. I'm angry with her, and I think that she's making the wrong decisions. But um, you know, um, I'm more upset that a person that I thought was a friend was involved again. So that's just sort of another person that I've uh, spent a lot of time with and a lot of effort into and cared for deeply that has just soiled everything that had been. I was telling another friend of mine who had told me that he had a different kind of betrayal from a longtime friend, but he came to me telling me that he sort of understood where I was coming from, seeing as a few years ago when all this trouble started with, no, I shouldn't say all this trouble, but when me and my wife's wife first broke up, before we got back together and then broke up again, one of my best friends was the one who had sort of convinced her to leave me and be with him. Um, and that betrayal is difficult. For me at least, I don't know if it's true for everybody, but when you have a betrayal to that extent, it's like a infection that spreads backwards in time. It makes you hate all the good memories that you have of that person. It makes you just feel sick and disgusted at having those be good memories. And I have to tell myself that in fact they were genuine. That like those moments should be isolated. It's hard to tell yourself that when you're dealing with that sensation. It's hard to tell yourself that that these experiences are genuine, even though they're ruined at the same time. Like to because you hold those memories, you treasure those memories. You don't want to you don't want them to be soiled, but they no matter what they you do, they still are. And anyway, so I've had a few people who I thought were my friends, um, who I've had good memories with, had strong connections to, that's happened to me, and it's happened yet again. And like I said, like I'm very disappointed in the situation that's going on with my wife, but she can make her own decisions. And I'm angry and I'm hurt and whatnot, but I'm again, it's more of that losing another person I thought was a friend and losing all those good times and all that memory and all that. It may sound selfish, but that investment that I put into that friendship and that relationship with that person, to lose that, to have it go backwards in time and silly all of that, because I did appreciate the friendship I had with that person. And um I thought you always want to believe that your friends are going to treat you right, but sometimes they don't, and sometimes they're not as your friends as you thought. Maybe they're people of opportunity. I don't know, but whatever it is, that's what I'm dealing with right now, because I had drawn a line in the sand for myself about what I was willing to accept and what I wasn't from my wife. And I didn't want any of the things that were happening, but I figured maybe she just wanted to be young and have a myriad of experiences. We got married when we were young, and we had a kid too. We did wait longer than most people do to have a kid, but we did have a kid early on. And in our ages, I was 23 when we had our daughter. Um, so I thought maybe she wanted a chance to live her life and be young and have the opportunities without being restricted by this feeling of necessity of a relationship. I don't know. Um, but that's what I had told myself. Thought that just give her time and, be the best person I can be. Show her that I am not my mistakes and that I'm not, uh, that I'm a good, that I show her the person that she fell in love with, originally, to show her that I'm a good person, because I try and be every day. I mean, I really do. I try and be genuine and honest and an open book, and I try and be loving and caring, because that's what I like about myself. So I try and feed into that. But I had drawn this line in the sand about, like, well, they're all sort of just flings or passing relationships or whatever. And for me, living away from the house that we had bought together, we bought it when we weren't together. But to me, that was like still something that we did together. And it was something that I felt still kind of held us together to a certain degree. Like there's our daughter and there's our house and the cars and everything we've invested in. I felt like those were still things that sort of built a bridge between us. So no matter what would happen, that that there would still be that connection, and that maybe something might be able to grow from there. Because there's a reason that I love her, and there's a reason that we were together, and there's a reason she loved me, and the reason she wanted to be together with us, have us to be together. So, I'd always tried to have that for me. But the line that I drew in the sand a long time ago, when all this started, when we broke up and she started dating people and going about her own personal choices in life, was that you know that house, as long as she didn't have a boyfriend there, and I wasn't, like, basically, as long as she, so I moved out because I couldn't be living there and her dating. She had told me that that's what was going to happen. We're not together. That's what's going to happen. That's why I ended up moving out, because I couldn't put myself through that. No matter how much I love her, no matter how much I wanted to try and be there for her and my daughter, I couldn't live through that. Um, so I moved out, but I'd always had that line that, like, as far as I know, she'd never had a boyfriend over to that house. It was still our house, if you will. And um, recently, that betrayal by the friend that I'm talking about, that friend lives there. And so in my mind, I drew that line a while back, and I have to be honest with it, because it hurts. It feels gross and it hurts, and makes me angry, and I want nothing to do with that house anymore. Zero, anything. Anybody living in that house, I want nothing to do with. And and not there. I do have people who are there who I still consider friends who live at that house, but I will never go back to that house. Not while that person is living anywhere within that house or a mile radius of that house, 5 mile radius. I will not be back there ever because I'm filled with such pain, and a common response to pain is anger and lashing out. And I don't think I would take it out on my wife, and I don't think I'd take it out on my daughter. I don't believe I have that capacity in me, but I cannot promise that I wouldn't do that to a person that I considered a friend. It's even patient people, even understanding people, even people who are more peaceful and choose not to do violence. It's still, you have your limitations. There's still, you can only handle so much, and that's the reason I won't go back there. Um, I just will not, absolutely not. And it's hard because there's still part of my brain who's trying to convince me of all these morbidness, of all this grotesque things that make my stomach churn, that make me angry, that make me revolted. But maybe that's the fact that I love my wife so much. And people say maybe it's an obsession, but the thing is like I haven't seen my wife in 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm not like pining after her. I've lived away from the house for a year now. You know, there was a time I was seeing my wife every week to 2 weeks, sometimes once every 3 weeks, but still, I mean, like I'm not living there. I'm not, we don't have a, there was times we had like a pseudo relationship thing, but again, it's not what I want from that. And it's not like I don't see how that was feeding back in if it is an addiction or an obsession. Um, but I don't know. I'm not a professional, and sometimes we lie to ourselves without realizing we're lying to ourselves. So I don't know. All I know is that I can't do it, and I need to stay the course. I need to respect myself and love myself. And I've always had difficulty loving myself, but I'm trying to stay the course with respecting myself and not crossing that line and not lowering my standards. You know, we have certain things that we should and shouldn't accept for ourselves. And I think that that is something important to me to keep true to. And it's just hard. It's hard not to be angry and lash out. It's hard not to reach out and sort of pine and scrape and beg, but I don't have the need to do it. I just, there's a part of your brain that says maybe it'll work, maybe it'll work, maybe if they see how much you care or how much they mean to you or whatever it is, you convince yourself of this system of why you should do this or why you should do that, like why you should be an asshole about this or be an asshole about that. Like you convince yourself that that's the right course, but it probably isn't, because you've had to convince yourself. Like to have that introspection, to look into yourself and actually be honest with yourself is really hard. And I don't think I'm that good at it, but that's why I try and at least respect myself. Draw those lines that is very tangible, that you can say, like A plus B equals C. So if I do this and I do this, then I know I'm watching out for what my needs are. Because when you're not in a place, and I think it's important to draw those lines when you're not in a place of like distress or need, because when you're at a decent or acceptable place, you can draw those lines. What is and isn't okay. But when you're distressed or whatever, you can't always be honest with yourself. You're gonna, you know, if you're having a rough day, you're gonna let yourself have, you know, a couple sodas or some beers or fast food or whatever it is to sort of satisfy, to self medicate, to be therapeutic to yourself. And so in order, but keeping those lines that you draw when you're in that place is just as hard as trying to draw those lines when you're in that place. And I guess that's the kind of difficulty I'm having, is still being a kind and patient and thoughtful person, and but then also like trying to look out for my own emotional needs, trying to look out for my own desires from life. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what I actually need and what I just want. I want companionship, but I don't think that I can accept anybody but my wife. But I don't want my wife right now. There's a great deal of steps that would take for me to get back with my wife. Like if she'd asked me 3 months ago, 4 months ago, you want to be together, I would say yes. But now, just this one change, like I didn't realize it would hit me so hard. Like I knew that line, right? But like I don't know. I thought that I had been through so much with her already, with the decisions she's made and how difficult that's been on me emotionally, that I thought that this was just another A plus B equals C. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just how it is. Like, to respect myself, this is what I do. But I didn't think it would impact me so deeply emotionally, and how, and add those difficulties, and I, that's kind of where I'm meeting that stuck point, is that I do want to like reach out. I want to soothe myself. Those therapies, that fast food, that whatever, and what I want to do is I want to try and fill that hole of feeling betrayed again, of feeling forgotten, of feeling uncared for feeling not non-considered. But I can't do that for myself. Well, I mean, I can, but what I mean is that I I can't make myself available emotionally to anybody. So where if I wanted to try and fill those things that are very difficult to get from yourself, from somebody else, like, people call it rebounds or whatever, but it's been so long, it's not really a rebound. But I know that, like, I can't get that from anybody else. The only people that can satisfy me in that way in my heart is my wife or me. And I don't want my wife, not without a myriad of steps to sort of repair what emotional damages that I've gone through. And that's also that, it takes two, and it take to make a relationship and all that. So essentially that's off the table. She can't do that for me, and I'm not in a place where I can do that really for myself. And what I mean by that is that feeling of not completion, but like it's companionship, that rebound, that the rebounding of ideas, that sharing of a bed and whatnot. And I don't mean like, you know, intimacy wise. I mean like private kind of intimacy. I mean like that connection you have with another person. It's hard to have that with yourself, because you always have that with yourself. That deep, profound, I guess, trust in another human being for your well, makes it sound bad, right? Like it makes it sound selfish. But I mean, we all as humans need something like that, right? We need somebody to sort of validate ourselves, but not like, again, that makes it sound bad. I'm having a hard time hitting the nail on the head on this one for what I'm actually getting at. Um, but the fact of like, you you are all up here, you experience everything you're experiencing. So to have somebody else outside of you go, hey, you are a good person, or hey, I think you're fun, or hey, I really like, you know, the way you try and make people feel better, or whatever. Just that reassurance that you are being successful at what you attempt. Because I feel like to do that yourself, you either end up like, for me, and this is maybe a personal hang up from all the life I've led since a child, that I've had to lead since I was a child, but it feels arrogant to be like, no, I did a good thing, like where I am a good person. That's why I say I try and be a good person. I do everything I can. I do good things. I care about people. Those are quantifiable things. I know I care about people, but I don't can't know that I'm a good person. I know that people. I can say that people quantify the things I try and do, and the efforts I make as good traits, and people with those good traits are considered good people. But it's hard to say that I am a good person. It's hard to speak that way because it sounds like I'm overconfident, or I'm arrogant or cocky or whatever you want to call it. And so to have somebody in which they can do that for you and you can do that for them, and that you support each other, not so much that you're validating each other, but that support and that belief and that trust and that love is something that you can give yourself a version of that. You can have a fair amount, a reasonable amount of confidence without being a jerk. And you can have all those things, but to have that reassurance, that outside interaction. And I've always said that between your friends and your partner, all your needs should be met, because between yourself, your partner, and your friends, you shouldn't want for anything. If you do, then there's something wrong with one of those three. There's something wrong with your friends, there's something wrong with your partner, or there's something wrong with you. And that doesn't mean that there's actually something wrong with them. It's something wrong with that relationship, your relationship with yourself, the relationship with your spouse or partner, or the relationship with your friends. Like, either you have made difficult or poor choices with yourself or those people you've included in your life, or that there's some sort of hang up where you're putting something on them that they cannot give you, right? So, but between all the people you have in your life, including yourself, you should meet all of those needs. But not everything you need can come from within inside of you, you know? And I know I'm going in a roundabout way, but that's what I'm getting at, is that right now I'd like to have that outside influence. And I've got great friends. My friends are pretty much hitting on all the cylinders that I, as a human being, require for socialization, for interaction, and and common ground, and all of that. But that trust and intimacy, and closeness and partnership and companionship with another human being, that tight knit kind of one, that for me is only one person. I know there are people out there who can have that with other people, but for me, I'm monogamous. That's what I do. I'm, one trick pony. Some people say, I don't know, but that is what I'm have absent from my life. I won't say missing, but it's something that I'd like to have right now, that would be nice to support where I'm at, you know. But again, I can't, like I said, I can't get that from me. I can't get that from my friends. And I don't have the capacity to let another person besides my wife do that. Not legitimately, not honestly or truly or wholly. And that's where it's hard, is that that I guess that part of me really wants that because of the betrayal, because of that loss, feeling like I have value as a partner, that I want it more, and that's reasonable, but it's also unreasonable because the person who's scorning me in that way is the only person that I feel I could get that from, but I don't want it from that person. And I guess it's a point that can't be fixed. And it's just something I have to live with right now. But it's hard to be respectful to myself, to keep my boundaries, to practice self-love. Maybe not to actually love myself, because that's always been difficult for me, but to practice self-love, you know. And then, besides that, that's the most distressing part of my personal slash emotional life. The other part is that um, about 4 months ago, 3.5 months ago, I got a promotion, which I'm super happy about. I don't know if I did a video or not. I do these so infrequently now that um, I don't I don't know if I talked about it, but I got the promotion that I've wanted from when I first started working at Walmart. Um, and I mean, that's it's not a problem. It's just I'm running into walls that I don't know. It's so let me try and be concise with what I'm trying to say. I it's sometimes it's hard to remember that not everybody holds the same thoughts and the same values as yourself. And I don't mean that I'm holding other people to my standard. What I mean is that it's such an innate part of how I think things through and how I try and work and how I try and process things, that I feel like to some degree everybody has it, right? I can't be such a significant outlier that I'm alone in this belief or standard. Like, that's kind of how I guess I'm running into this problem, is that some people I'm working with, they just don't seem to be motivated, or they don't seem to understand what I'm trying to let them know. I'm now in charge of a team of people, and um, sometimes I mean I don't blame them. I'll put it that way. I don't get angry at them. I don't blame them, but it's frustrating, right? To try and convince people to take pride in their work, or to convince people to care about the other people on their team or the other people in the store, things like that. It's hard to convince people that that there's the way you're trying to help them is you're actually trying to help them. You're not just trying to give them more work or preach at them. And I'm not saying I'm doing that, but I'm trying to boil everything down to the simple and vaguest way of explaining what I'm trying to get at. Like, for instance, when I'm at work, when before I got this position, like most days, I'd say 90% of my days, maybe worse, 85% of my days, when I'm there, I feel like if I am supposed to be working, then I am supposed to be working. So, like, if it's not my break or it's not my lunch, then I am being productive as I can, right? I'm being efficient. I'm being thoughtful of my other coworkers. Um, and, you know, um, that I'm not saying people aren't doing that, but it just feels like some people are okay with spending extra time doing things that are frivolous, or where they're so stuck in their way that when other people are presenting them, and so including myself, presenting them with alternatives to how to do something to make their day either easier or faster, one or the other, which, you know, either I think people would want, that that there's no change, that it's effectively falling on deaf ears. And again, you can't make people. I don't blame them. I mean, this, some people, this is just a job. This is where they come and they do some work and they go home. And I get that. But for me, it's kind of a weird concept to not earn a paycheck, like to not actually like give your values worth. And I'm not asking for people to give like 110%, or I never ever claim that. Um, I'm very reasonable. The position I'm over, I was previously doing since, off and on since 2016. Like I'm not, I think I've in total in in the position that I'm now over, I had done it probably 2.5 years, right? And other people that I've spoken with who've done it for as long or longer than me are not disagreeing with where I'm coming from. Like I explain like how I've presented the information, like what I expect from my workers, and whatnot, and how I've considered and adjusted for how things actually go versus the way things are supposed to go. Um, and same thing all the time. Like it's just, it's like if with my reasonability, right, they should be able to fairly consistently and 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 easily hit the marks I'm asking them to. But it seems like more often than not, I'm pulling teeth. The other day, I had to go up there and say, I had to go to my associates and be like, it needs to be done at this time. And all I got was pushback. I mean, they got it done 10 or 15 minutes after I wanted them to, but I sort of expected that. Not that I wanted it, but the fact is that I don't think that if I didn't go up there and tell them I wanted it done arbitrarily, let's say 8:15, right? If I don't didn't tell them that I wanted it done by 8:15 and they got it done by 8:30, right? That if I had not told them that, it probably would have gotten done by 9 or 9:30, which is ridiculous. You know, I'm not angry at them. It's just, I've got to consider the needs of other people on my team. I've got to consider that some people are working their butts off. So I have to be thoughtful. And the people that I was making a reference to, they did work hard that day, but they might not have just had a good pace, or they might have gotten their time eaten up by something. But anyway, like it's it, it should be outlier days. It should be only 20% of the time that we're having these troubles reaching our goals for the day, than having them it be 80 to 90% of the time we're having trouble reaching the goals for the day. You know, like we're doing this every day, and I'm being the same level of considerate I am every day. And the fact that they could get it done only 15 minutes behind versus what it was looking like they were going to get it done, then we should be able to, unless they were pushing really, really, really hard. In which case, then that comes down to the whole working smarter, not harder kind of thing. Like, why is it that we were so far behind in the first place? You had to push so hard to get to that point. I don't know. I My goal is to have it to where we come in, we do our jobs, and we go home, and we do what is reasonable. We accomplish what we're supposed to be accomplishing, and we go home. Like my bosses want me to not have the mentality we can only get done as much as we can get done. But pragmatically, that's exactly what happens. If I have 10 people, I can only do 10, maybe 11 people's worth of work, like that's what it is. There's only so many hours. Like you can't do superhuman feats. And yes, if they were coming in every day, giving 100% of everything they had, we could be exceeding, where there's only 10 people, we could be doing 14 people's worth of work done. Sure, but then people are going to be quitting, people are going to be leaving, people are going to be unhappy. And that's not good either. I care about people. I genuinely don't want my workers to be miserable. I want them to come in, like most of the other people in the store do, come in, do their job for 8 hours, and then go home. That's all I'm asking for. But I actually want to get 8 hours worth. Okay, 7.5 because they get their technically. Well, actually, no. Yeah, no. They're there for 9. They get in, but that includes their hour lunch, so that makes 8 hours. Yeah, 7.5 hours. I want their 7.5 hours of work out of them. That's what I want, but I'm not getting it. And some people just have a slower pace and stuff, and that's something that I'm I try and consider and things like that. But then they need to be consistent. So I know if I give them a task that's 5 hours, and it's going to take, but every time I give them 5 hours of work, it takes them 6.5. I know that, and I can account for that. But things are so inconsistent across the board, and it also feels like there's just not enough determination or pride in one's work, or thoroughness or organization. It just feels like I'm hitting a wall with some people, and a lot of them are decent, good people. Like I don't feel like they're trying to swindle me. I just feel like they think that what they're doing is that they think that they're putting out like outstanding work or something. Like maybe that's it, like maybe they think that the 6.5 hours that they're taking on a 4-hour task. I mean, it's not. This is a hyperbole, but 6.5 hours taking on a 4-hour task um, is them working hard, is them working efficiently, and it's like, no, it shouldn't be that way because I've seen people take on a 4-hour task and get it done in 2.5, 3 hours. I mean, they might have been giving 100%. That's why I'm saying, like, if you, I don't know, and I just have I love the guy to death. He's an awesome guy, but he is one of my bosses, and so he's saying, "Hey, look, this needs to get done. This needs to get done. This needs to get done," and he ends up catching a lot of the flack uh, in a in one way. He's not like my direct boss, but he is a boss of me. He ends up having to carry the burden that my team isn't getting done. So, and I care about him and his team. Like I care about him. But the fact is that every day he comes in and he's always frustrated and always disappointed. And maybe that's just because he's that kind of level of in the system where that's his expectation. Like he always wants more. Maybe that's it. I don't think that is, because I feel like if we could just be consistent, where every day we have what's what is supposed to be done, I don't think he would be upset, or it'd just be more like a, well, okay, that's not great, but at least this and that, blah blah. At least I can. I'm at least he's not having additional responsibilities. If that makes sense. It's frustrating because you can't make people work. You can use punitive measures to resolve things, but ultimately, if someone doesn't want to work, you can't make them, and eventually, what ends up happening is you have to get rid of them, and then I'm down a worker. And then now I've got more work for less people. And then that's the problem magnifies on top of itself. Because if I'm already not getting the stuff done with the people I have, if I have less people, then I'm not going to get the same amount of freight done. I don't know. I'm just this position. Even though it sounds like I'm super stressed and super frustrated, I mean, I do have what I consider to be a reasonable amount of stress for this position. It's a it's a job. It's important. I have responsibilities, but it's not like killing me. I'm not like frazzled. I'm not angry. I'm not crying over it. I mean, it's just standard kind of stress. I'm happy to have the position. I I want things to be different. I want things to be better. And I don't know. It's pretty much it. I mean, at least with the problems that the things that have been frustrating me, the problems that I've been trying to tackle. And I wish, I guess in my personal life, I wish that I could be happy for my wife. I wish I could let her go. I wish I could stop loving her. I wish that I could just move on with my life, but I can't. It hurts. There's a lot that was there. And it just feels like the same way that all those friendships I thought I had, how it leaks backwards. It leaches backwards and decays memories. Like the same thing with my wife. It's just in a different kind of way. I don't know. I have felt betrayed by her, but I don't know. Maybe I should be. I mean, I'm angry at her. Maybe I should be more angry. I don't know. But at the same time, I genuinely do want her to be happy, but it makes me angry that it's not with me. It makes me angry that things have turned out the way they have. And it hurts profoundly and deeply, like in my core. I haven't talked with her in 3 weeks because that's when I found out. It's been, I think, 3 weeks, if not 3.5 weeks, something like that, almost a month since I found out. And I'm just so angry. And I don't mean like outwardly angry. I just mean like hurt. I mean like, I'm just frustrated. It feels like I've been wronged again. And I just wish I could forget it. Wish I could just let go. But I, I've known that woman since 2007, and I've loved her all the way back then too. It's literally almost been 13 years. 13 years come June 7th that I've known her. And it was probably around September or October that I knew that I loved her, even though we were just friends. We didn't start dating until 2010, basically, just before 2010, like 2009. And I guess it's just so deep rooted in me that it's not something I can just shake. And just, I wish it didn't hurt anymore. I wish I didn't care. I wish I didn't want her. I don't know. I just, I want honestly, I just want everyone to be happy, as many people as is possible. And I know some people will never ever be happy no matter what they want, no matter they just won't let themselves. And maybe I'm one of those people. I don't know, but I I just I want to not care about what she does. I want to not care about me being with her or not being with her. I just want to be a good person to those people who want to be in my life. I want to be the best version of myself I can be. I want to be the best dad I can be. And it's not always simple. I'm also coming up on uh, a year since I lost my dad as well. And that's the reason I started these videos that last year, because I didn't have anybody to turn to. I just moved away from my wife and all that, and my dad died after that. And I mean, I think it's been a positive, and I don't mean like a good or happy or or freeing experience, but I think good is in the fact of like it has done good for me to learn how to look into myself and support myself and try and care for myself. I would always either turn, and I've said this before in other journals that I did, that I would either have my wife or my dad to turn to. And now I've got neither of them. I've had neither of them for 10 months now. My dad will have been gone in July. And just, I mean, I've had friends and stuff, but it's just not the same. Like that kind of level of trust and support and understanding and love. It's just it's not quantifiable by a friendship. And there's, what was it? The Greeks said there's 7 kinds of love, and sometimes you can, some people you're only capable of getting a certain kind of love from. And I don't mean that they can't try and give the other love. I just mean that what they can give versus what we can receive, you know. I hope that that can be inferred about what I mean. But I feel more stable emotionally. I feel more stable mentally. And I don't know if that's just, the transition of, you know, being in my late 20s, and maybe that's just a normalization of brain chemicals and stuff, because, we keep developing until, mid to late 20s. So maybe in tandem with everything else, it's sort of leveling things out. I mean, life is always hard. Life's always going to be hard. Life is, in fact, hard. But I think that it's been good to know that I can do this, know that I can survive on my own, emotionally on my own. Like I knew I was always capable of handling, doing laundry and making sure I had food, blah blah blah. I mean, I was running half a household when I was with my wife. But just, I mean, when was the last time I did one of these videos, right? So I don't know. I wish I didn't have to learn that I could do it, but I try and look at the silver linings about what, like, of a situation. I had an associate who was having kind of a rough time the other day. I asked him um, to do something he hadn't done before, and it was a difficult task. And I said, "Hey, man, like I know you might not want to hear this, but this is how I dealt with it when I was in your shoes. Like I saw that I was getting paid to do this thing where most people have to pay to get to do that thing. So like yeah." And I said, like that's what works for me, but hopefully you can find something that helps you get through when you have to handle a task like this. I think trying to stay positive and stay cognizant of what good is coming out of the situation has been very helpful. And because in all, I like to believe that with all good things there are bad, and with all bad things there are good. And you know, if what I'm having difficulty with is the I think with the good things, the bad helps you stay sort of goal oriented and focused and humble and all that stuff, and trying to recognizing that when things are going great you still have to be mindful, and having a bad stuff, that knowing that there's good that's coming out of it makes it more tolerable, makes it you realize that maybe there's a lesson or a value or whatever it is. Like I think that approach I've been trying to take for the last year, well, longer than that, but I think that this year away on my own sort of is like, I think that's what I mean by it's been positive is that I've had to rely on myself, and I haven't failed myself. I may not have lived up or succeeded, but I haven't failed either. And that I know I can rely on myself, and I know that I can push through something, and that I'm not weak, and that I never thought I was. I was just afraid I was. And uh, maybe that's how I'm going to deal with this stuff that I'm having a hard time with. Maybe I just look at the positive, right? Like look at the silver linings, like with my wife currently. Like, okay, I don't want, I love her, but I don't want anything to do with her right now. She's hurt me, and she's aided in the loss of another person I thought was a friend. So maybe the positive in that is that I don't need, no, that's not it. That I I can worry less about what she's doing with her life, because every day for the last year, all I've thought about when I wake up, the first thought is always of her and my daughter. And that's not a bad thing, but that I she can make decisions for herself, and that regardless of what I think of it, she can handle it. And that means that she can make sure things are taken care of. So worst case, at least I know that I don't have to worry about her. I mean, I still will, but at least there's that, right? Or that this is another thing that I've survived, that's happened between me and her. Another painful stab, I thought that I couldn't experience it anymore. That there had been enough of them, that there wasn't any more to have. So that there's another thing I can survive, that there's a new bar that I know that I can surpass. I've surpassed this one, I've surpassed this one, I've surpassed this one. So I know that I can succeed the next time something, maybe not her, but the next time something emotionally difficult happens again. Same with my dad passing. I've made it almost a whole year. I mean, yeah, it sucks and it's hard and all that stuff and whatnot, but knowing that how painful that was to have him gone, to have every ounce of that relationship vanish that I had with my dad, that I can survive that too. You know, that I have that internal strength, that I don't need anybody, that that I know that I only want somebody, that I want that kind of support. I know that if I can be with my wife or if I can be with somebody new, whatever the future holds, I don't know. All I know right now is that she's the only person that I still want, though I don't actually want her. And it's complicated, but that that it's not, I don't have to worry so much about that relationship succeeding. I don't have to pour everything I have into a relationship succeeding. You know, that that I don't need that person to help me survive. That person's going to just make my survival better and more higher quality and more enjoyable, and someone that I can do the same thing for them with. I'm, maybe the thing about work is that I'm it's a learning curve, right? It's an opportunity for me to figure out how, right? Because if I keep trying something, then it doesn't work. Well, then try something else, and if that doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I get to learn about new people, and I get to learn about new ways to interact and express myself to people, and help build those people and build myself. Sorry, recently there, the weather changes, been drying out my throat a lot. I don't know. I know what you're thinking. It's not true. I get or for Walmart, they check my temperature every day at work. We go through a myriad of questions every day before I'm allowed to get there, and we're forced to wear masks. So, forced makes it sound bad. I mean, it's good that we're, protecting each other from ourselves. So, but you know, and the fact is that, and again at work, there's like this last week, there's been a large quantity of work, way larger than it usually is. Like I said, I've been doing this job a while, so this is unusual. This is the kind of workload that you see that we see going into, you know, the holiday season and back to school season and all that. Like, and we're seeing it now in one of the times of year that it should be very mild comparatively. Um, so that's an opportunity to do better there, right? That's I know that that as a leader, I'm surviving this, and my people are surviving this. Now, it's not easy; it's very frustrating and difficult. But I know that there will come a time in the future where it's not going to be this way. It's not just going to be undying amounts of work. That those of my crew that come with me through all of this will be stronger and better workers, and I'll have a rapport with them because the camaraderie of this insanity will help us succeed when it comes to times where times are more regular and more normal and more grounded. Right? That's a silver lining, I'd like to think. And the opportunity that I have with my boss, that that I can begin to understand his needs for all of his workers and where I fit into that better. I already know the significance of my position, but to know and to understand what he needs and to try and work towards anticipating those needs or becoming more effective at hitting the goals that we're already after, right? And that it strengthens my resolve and confidence as a person. All of these things, right? That's that's the ultimate silver lining with the things I'm going through. That I won't just give up, that I won't just roll over and quit or step down from my position or give up on life like I tried a few years ago just because someone didn't love me, because someone hurt me. That I have that strength to keep going, that I'm not pushover, that I'm not weak, that I that I will endeavor to always do better, and I will endeavor to always be better and to learn as much as I can to benefit myself and everybody in my life and everybody I work with, to be the best that I can be and to keep pursuing that, knowing that even though I've reached a new level, there was a new level before that and one before that and before that. So that even though I think that I'm as high as I can get, I know it isn't. I know that it can be better. I know that I can do better. I don't mean that in a sort of negative way that I'm not good enough, but that I can push to do and be and succeed more. I think I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I was thinking about doing some game streaming, maybe next weekend or something. But that's pretty much all the video journaling that I needed to do today. Those are the things that have been racking my brain and frustrating and emotionally difficult. So I guess I will be going now. So anybody who's been watching this or will watch this, thank you for putting up with my ramblings, if you will. Um, I was going to say something that I can't remember. Um, oh, all right.